Hey, yo, welcome back to Verdict of Wire. Well, we've got a great card on Saturdays at Gulfstream, and it's laden with stakes, including a late pick five sequence anchored by the Fountain of Youth, the Derby prep we all want to see, Locked and Dornoch debuting for the 3-year-old campaign. So there's looking at it, there's tons of value. It's going to be a wild one, so let's get into it. The Fountain of Youth Late Pick 5 comprises races 10 through 14 on Gulfstream's Saturday card, and it's all stakes, and I think this is a very exciting sequence. Leg 1 is the Very One Stakes, or the Very One Stakes, as I heard a colleague say. It's the 10th race. It's a mile and a 3 ace on the turf for 4-year-olds and up fillies and mares, so this is a 3-turn race. And if we take a look at this one, the first thing to note is there isn't a lot of early speed in this race. Angel Nadeshiko and Sister Luann are really the only two. And of those two, I think Sister Luann is more likely to get the lead, has a little more, has more back class, and is a more consistent performer on the front end. The distance is a little bit of a question, but a lot of times, particularly at Gulfstream, being a speed favoring turf course, these marathon races are won on the front end, and I don't think she's going to get a lot of pressure. So it'll be her race to lose. Sister Luann, a logical use. Ready Lady, I really like in this spot. This is a shipper from Roger Atfield, who's notorious for bringing him down from Canada and running big races. This one has been progressing nicely, and I think is a good fit here. Should be sitting off the pace runners, and will get the jump on some of the later ones. I think offers a really good price here, and I think has a very good chance, given so there is some vulnerability from some of the more prominent horses here. Highland Grace is a horse that is just one pace, just doesn't seem to have a lot of kick. And that's really the issue. That's why I think they run her at these longer distances. She just sort of tries to grind it out and wear everybody down. Well, that's not going to happen here, I don't think, particularly since there isn't a lot of pace here. She'll keep running, but I think underneath is more likely, more often than not, a bridesmaid. Anatolian ran a pretty good race in the Le Prevoyant last time, I thought, but always seems to be a little short. Just kind of I don't see the killer instinct to win here. Her running style just sort of, she just leaves herself a little too much to do. And particularly in a race where there isn't a lot of pace, I think she's at a disadvantage. However, I think it's very logical to be used underneath. Miss Yearwood is a deep closer who's pace dependent, and you're not getting any pace here. She's shown signs of ability in the past, but I think she's a little too married to the pace that won't be there. And I think underneath is very likely. Probably like her a little bit more than R. Callie Kim, to be honest. But I think she's more of a minor player. R. Callie Kim ran a nice race last time. Couldn't quite get to Alpha Bella, who, if she was here, I'd bet with both hands. R. Callie Kim is a 7-year-old who's been running some great races, been very consistent lately. But at 7 years old, it's hard to expect her to run back to that last race, particularly since that one was off the bench. You always want an older horse off the bench, not afterwards. So to me, I'm down on R. Callie Kim. She could still do it, but the scenario really doesn't set up well for her, and I think a regression is very possible. Leg 2 is the Gulfstream Park Mile. It's a grade 2. It's the 11th race. Running a mile, of course, of 4-year-olds and up. And as we note always, the Gulfstream is a 1-turn mile. So horses to the inside with speed, favored. Problem is here, there is no early speed. There just isn't. Il Miracolo, got beat up quite a bit, including by yours truly, on the Derby Trail last year, but has improved steadily and has redeemed the faith of his connections, because he has been running progressively better. He seems to be more of a cut below the grade 1. So this is he's getting some class relief here, which I think is a positive. Last year, prior to the Belmont, he ran a 1-turn allowance race and won it pretty handily on the front end. I think they're going to do that here. Why not? He's class-wise, he's probably a little better than some of these, and he has the stamina to take them all the way. He should be able to get to the front, slow things down, and then it's a question if he's good enough, and I think he is. So Il Miracolo, I think, has a very good chance here. Tumba Rumba we had in the in the Fred Hooper, and because he had the killer instinct, whereas a lot of the horses in that race did not. And we were paid for it. I hope you had it too. He's going to be in a really good position sitting off the pace, and then it'll be a question if he's good enough again. There's no reason to believe he's not going to run a good race. I do have a sneaky suspicion that he might have peaked in that last one, and the regression is possible. However, I think he's one you can use with confidence as a viable win candidate. Ticking to me is very interesting. This is a horse who, at 3 years old, ran a really big race, got a 99 Brisnet speed figure, and then regressed for 4 starts after that. Wasn't a big surprise when that type of thing happens. However, the last couple seems to be getting back on track, and now at 4 years old, it's entirely possible that a move forward is forthcoming here. Ran a pretty good race last time. If she can get back to that speed figure she ran last year, which is very possible, that puts her deep in the mix here at a price. She's going to be just off Il Miracolo, whoever takes the lead, and I like her chances. I think she offers some outstanding value. Wit has been running primarily on turf, and not a big surprise when you consider that the turf division isn't so great. It wasn't for 3-year-olds last year. But this one started on dirt, and I don't think it'll be a problem at all to move back. You're probably going to get a decent or a square price with a Todd Pletcher. And this one has the back class to tell me that he'll be competitive here. I think Wit is one that's worth consideration. I just kind of like Il Miracolo primarily a little bit better, and I think you get better value with ticking. Steel Sunshine brings it every time. Some of you may remember Perfect Drift from years ago. He has that feel to him. He's always the bridesmaid, but he always picks up a check. And the Fred Hooper was no exception. He ran a good race there last time. Problem is he had a little more pace to run to that he's going to get here. So the race shape doesn't really set up very well for him. He's absolutely a horse you need to use. But to me, you back key him in the trifecta. And I think that's probably the best play in this race. And I'll mention Castle Chaos just because he would be foremost on a lot of people's mind after the Fred Hooper. You're thinking, maybe one more jump and he gets up. Well, he did run a really nice race last time, but he did save a lot of ground on the rail. He's going to be able to do that here too. But he's also 6 years old, and he ran the race of his life off the bench. I just have a feeling he's not going to be able to do that again, and I think the price will be too short, so I'm betting against him. And Gilmore, I just don't like at all. This horse has been constantly, you wait for him to finally run a good race, and he doesn't. Last time, the Hooper was a total dud, and yes, he may run better here, but he's also a horse who's pace-dependent in a race without any. So I can't like him. I think he's going to be a wise guy horse, so the price will be too short as well. Leg 3 is the Canadian Turf Stakes. It's a Grade 3, running 1 mile and a 16th on the turf for 4-year-olds and up, and it's the 12th race on the card. You look at this one, and this is an interesting race. Giant Game needs to settle on the lead, and I don't think he's going to be able to with Saratoga Flash in the mix. Saratoga Flash's form is not very good for the last couple, albeit on all weather, but I think they're just going to send him and hope for the best, and I don't think it's going to happen, and that really compromises Giant Game's chances, particularly being in the outside. So that's from the front end. We look at Smoke and Tea, brings it every time. Shug McGahee always has this one ready. Fires Fresh, very important. And although he is 0 for 3 at Gulfstream, I think he's got a good scenario here. And if he brings his A game, he's a win candidate for sure. Emmanuel is not a Grade 1 horse. He's proven that 3 times. They've tried him there, but this isn't a Grade 1. It's a Grade 3, and I think he's a very good class fit here. He should be sitting probably a little bit further back from Smoking Tea, and then it'll be a question of if he's good enough late in the stretch. I think he's got the ability to win this. He did last year under a very similar scenario. So Emmanuel, I think, is one that you have to use. Turf King has that other Chad Brown feel to him, if you know what I mean. Chad Brown always has 3 turf horses in stakes races up in New York, and it's always the one you don't expect that runs the best. And I think Turf King while being the only Chad Brown here, kind of has that feel. You look at him, he looks like a cut below the better horses in here. And he did just have a win on synthetic, but his numbers indicate a horse who's not progressing. I don't necessarily see a move forward, but a lot of things can happen from 3 to 4. And with Chad Brown training him, it's entirely possible. So this one could be sneaky here, lying in the weeds. So Turf King, probably more a candidate for under, but one maybe you want to think about, given the shape of this race. I like Siege of Boston. Siege of Boston is a horse who just has been slowly, incrementally improving. He's getting better and better with every race. And I think he's very capable of a move forward here. And I think it's very likely at a good price. I think he'll be not way in the back. He'll be close up enough that he can get it going late. And if Smokin' Tea and Emmanuel duel it out in the stretch, I think he's an excellent beneficiary of it. And at value, I like Siege of Boston here. Ice Chocolat, what do you do with him? He's a sprinter miler. That I think this extra half panel kind of does him in. He's more of a bridesmaid type of horse. Never seems to really get there, but he is solid. He does bring it every time, and I'm willing to put him in the mix. Underneath, more likely, I think it'd be a tall order for him to win this one. Leg 4 is the Honey Fox Stakes. It's a grade 3. It's running a mile on the turf for 4-year-olds and up, fillies and mares. It's the 13th race on the card. And this is a wild one. This is one of the craziest turf races I've ever seen. Very hard to pinpoint somebody to take this one down. Look at all the early speed. Now, a lot of times you can have that thought that we've seen it happen when you have so much early speed, they get gun shy. A lot of them take back and somebody wires the field. Not going to happen here. It can't, because For the Flag and Time Passage want to do the exact same thing and do so very quickly. Consequently, you've got two confirmed front runners who are going to both want to do the same thing. Has to be pacing here. So horses on the front end are going to be a little bit at a disadvantage, even though Gulfstream does favor early speed. I think of those, Ancient Peace is probably the one who will hang around most logically. Brian Lynch is just killing it at Gulfstream. He's red hot, has been the whole meet. Can't throw anything out of his. Ancient Peace is compromised a bit by the 11 hole, but he can rate, or she can rate rather, and I think she probably will. She might be able to follow Time Passage up to a really good position, and then can just linger and wait to strike, and maybe can get the jump on some of the others. Ancient Peace, one I think you need to use. Be My Sunshine, there was the weirdest race last time. Edwin Gonzalez pulled her up in the stretch with about 100 feet to go. And I cannot figure out for the life of me why he did that. I just can't see anything. I'm sure there was a good reason for it. I don't want to imply anything else. But I think it cost Be My Sunshine any chance to win the race, certainly. And maybe a position. But Be My Sunshine is one that I think is going to get into a little bit of trouble because she likes to run really close to the pace. Going to get good position for sure, but seems, is super consistent. I think underneath is probably more likely because it's going to tactically have difficulty when you get some of these front runners backing up. And she's one that, never seems to quite get there, but I think Be My Sunshine underneath for sure. Walkathon, I think, really suffers from this pace scenario because she does her best running comfortably on the lead without challenge. That's not going to happen here. She can rate, there's no doubt about it, and is a horse getting good at the right time. I'm not sure another move forward is possible because her last two have represented the same class level. And as we saw last week with West Omaha, when you start seeing that happen, then maybe they've reached the ceiling of their potential. However, Walkathon, horse you can definitely use, is serviceable here. I'm just not sure that this necessarily sets up for a win. Infinite Diamond hasn't really done much on turf, but has shown signs of ability on dirt. And I don't think they're going to put this one up on the lead. I think they're going to take her back and try to make a run at it. And because of that, for that reason alone, you have to consider in this race. You're going to get some good value, and it's entirely possible if you're looking for a wild card, maybe Infinite Diamond is one, but to be honest, I can't find anything to really hang my hat on her for that purpose. But using underneath, yes. Mohawk Trail is very intriguing to me. This is a horse. Kelsey Danner is 0 for Gulfstream so far, but she's very good. She's at 20% with horses off a long layoff on the turf. This one's debuting at 4. I think showed enough for me at 3 to indicate that a move forward is possible. A lot of times 4-year-olds come out in their debut and they run a big race. And I think Mohawk Trail is one of those that could very well do it. You've got a pace scenario that's entirely favorable to her later running style and maybe a little ahead of Candy Light and Chili Flag. Maybe tactically can get the jump, and you're going to get value here. I like Mohawk Trail a lot as an alternative, and I think in a race like this that's so crazy, you have to find a wild card, and I think Mohawk Trail for me is the one. Candy Light, I think, has got a scenario that's very favorable. Going to have to work out a trip, being from the 2-hole. Will be able to save a lot of ground. Not sure she's good enough to beat Chili Flag, the other front runner here. But if things do break right, it's entirely possible. It's certainly going to be the horse who works out a trip in this race, to be sure. But Candy Light, as a closer, probably more underneath is likely, but I think is one you have to use. Chili Flag just came out of the Pegasus turf and was a non-factor in the race, but didn't run badly. She ran her race, closed well. It just wasn't good enough. Well, she's getting some nice class relief here and an ideal situation for a late runner. Chili Flag is going to be the chalk more than likely, but is a deserving one, trained by Chad Brown, and I think the grade 3 level meets her right between the eyes, and everything is all systems go. But, if she does encounter some traffic trouble or whatnot, which is entirely possible with all these early runners backing up late, then I think Mohawk Trail is the other alternative. But Chili Flag looks awful good here. So now we come to leg 5, the one we're all waiting for, the Fountain of Youth Stakes. It's the 14th and last race on the Saturday card. Thank you, Gulfstream, for not throwing in a maiden for the last leg of the sequence. It's running a 1.16 miles for 3-year-olds. Now, the thing to remember about this race, it starts on a turn, and it has a short stretch. So horses with early speed are certainly in an excellent position here, particularly ones on the inside. And if you think about it in those terms, that makes for a very interesting race. We don't know yet if Speakeasy is going to run on Friday or Saturday. If Speakeasy runs on Saturday in this race, I still don't like him because how many Todd Pletchers have we seen run monsters first time out and then bounce in the second start? It happens all the time. Todd Pletcher is 0 for 12 with horses moving to graded stakes for their first route. That's enough for me, particularly when you consider what happened with Fierceness after his big maiden score. Same thing. So to me, there are a lot of things to like about Speakeasy for sure, but I'm not sure the distance is necessarily what he wants. And he does have the rail, and he's going to be in great position. I just am looking for others to factor. Most notably, Victory Avenue. I really like this horse. Gustavo Delgado did it with Mage last year, and he's got I think he's at 30. He's at least 30% with a 550 ROI in 3-year-olds in their first route. Okay, and Mage fit that bill, and I think Victory Avenue does too. The pedigree screams 2 turns, being by Arrogate, should love the added ground. Ran a really solid second to Speakeasy last time, got a big figure. I think this horse is, of the two, I think has a better chance to factor in this race. And I think the scenario is right for it. We'll get to why in a second. So Victory Avenue, you get a price here, a horse who's on the come, and I like his chances a lot. Dornoch is very obvious. We all saw that Remsen, and there was a really gutty win and a horse who was getting progressively better and is Mage's full brother. So it's logical to expect that this trip is going to meet him right between the eyes. And I would not talk anybody out of who wants to use Dornoch, and I will too. However, he's debuting at 3. Danny Gargan is 8% off a long layoff with 3-year-olds. So it's not cast in stone, particularly since he's on the Derby trail, that he's going to come out and be tuned up all the way. The scenario is ripe for him here to be just off Speakeasy and Victory Avenue. Let them duke it out, and he can pounce and he can win this race. Being a front runner, he certainly has tactically an advantage over Locked. If I had to choose between the two, Dornoch might be the one I'd be likely to take. But let's also remember, I don't know how good this 3-year-old class is. And we've seen a lot of horses with high profiles coming back at 3 and not running terribly well. And so Dornoch's still a little green. The Remsen, hitting the rail and whatnot. And he did have some advantages there in terms of race flow and whatnot. So I don't think it's cast in stone that either Dornoch or Locked are going to win this race. But do you have to use them? Yes. Frankie's Empire is 3rd off the layoff, and he's been progressing nicely in his last 2. He did win the Swale Stakes, came from off the pace and closed very well. He has the pedigree to go 2 turns. I'm a little reticent to get really psyched about him, only because horses who run in the Swale generally means that their trainer isn't really that confident he can get 2 turns. And that's my only concern here. However, his running style and the fact that he's in good form and ready to make another move forward, I think, tactically sets him in a very good position should there be a pace duel and should Dornoch falter. So Frankie's Empire with a price, I think, is a horse to use. Dancing Groom is just a horse because of the pace scenario. You want to put him underneath to bottom out your exactas or your exotics, rather, go ahead. But I don't see this horse doing much more than that. He would need a pretty wild pace scenario, and he'd also need Locked to not show up at all to factor in this race. Is it possible? Sure, but kind of remote. So Dancing Groom, underneath only. Locked, I love this horse. I've loved him since Saratoga. I love the acceleration. He just got everything you want in a 3-year-old. The Breeders' Cup, I'm not holding against him because he was closing into a speed-favoring track, and I still thought he ran a pretty darn good race. He's an excellent horse. He is going to be prominent later on. I'm not sure with the week off in training when he ran a fever, and there's a pretty good gap in the tab there to indicate to me that maybe we want to wait one to get the optimum effort out of him. Todd Pletcher always has a plan. He wanted to run this one in the Sam Davis. He had to scrap that. And now to get him 2 Derby preps, he's got to put him in the Fountain of Youth, where I have a feeling if he had had his druthers, he would have spaced it out even further. And maybe, I'm a little surprised he didn't put him in the Tampa Derby or another one in between. But he's here. He should have a scenario that may favor him, but the track really doesn't the way it's set up. That's really the concern I have more than anything else. He's a top quality horse. You have to use him. There's no question about it. But I think he's vulnerable, as is Dornoch. And if both of them don't show up, I think Victory Avenue's got a really good chance to steal this one. So if we take a look at our ticket, there's no singles in this one. Not one. I mean, this is a tough sequence. We're spreading in all of them because we have to. There's just a lot, but there should be some nice payouts. If we can just get a couple of these home at a price, it's going to be a nice payday. Leg 10 or leg 1, race 10, we're going to use 3, 5, and 10. Leg 2, race 11, we're going to use 4, 5, and 7. If I could see singling Il Miracolo there, I could, but why? It's just a feeling I have, but it'd be really crazy to single and then have Ticking or Tumbarumba come home, especially Ticking at a price. Leg 3, race 12, we're going to use 2, 3, and 5. And I can see throwing in the Chad Brown number 4 as well, Turf King. And if you do, I've listed two prices on the bottom for the ticket, one with Turf King and one without, just to give you a feel for what it will cost. Leg 4, race 13, the Honey Fox. You know what? It's a wild, wide open race. It's either going to be Chili Flag, it's going to be a late runner. To me, it's Chili Flag, or we're going to use the 8 for the price Mohawk Trail. And one or the other. And this is a kind of a Hail Mary to a degree, but this is a sequence where you've got to plant your flag and hope for the best. And then leg 5 in the Fountain of Youth, we're going to use Victory Avenue, and of course Dornoch and Locked. And I can't, whenever you got two short prices in a Derby prep like this, I think you have to find value. And to me, Victory Avenue represents the best chance at a price to get home. So that's 3 by 3 by 3 or 4 by 2 by 8. So it's either an $81 ticket on a 50-cent base or a $108 ticket on a 50-cent base. But I tell you, even if we get a couple of chalks home, there should be some prices in some of the other races. And I have a feeling this one's going to pay very handsomely if we can hit it. If ever I've seen a sequence where you got to plant your flag and hope for the best, this is one of them. I don't think there's a single in any one of these races. They are laden with value, and hopefully we can pick the right ones. Particularly the Honey Fox is just a crazy race. So I think if we hit this one, we are going to get paid. I hope our analysis helps you with your own wagering strategy, of course, and I'll wish you the best of luck as always, and I think we're all going to need it for this sequence. If you do like the content like this, of course, please like and subscribe. And thanks to all of you who have come on board. It's heating up on the Derby Trail. It's getting exciting. I'm sure you're feeling it as well. So we're going to continue to have more postings. We've got the Santa Anita Handicap this weekend. And incidentally, I'm not going to bother with the San Felipe. It's a Bob Baffert invitational, and none of those horses are going to run in the Derby, so I don't see much use in looking at it. I hope that doesn't disappoint you. But the Coast to Coast Pick 5, Nolan, you've requested it, so we're going to try to get a posting for that. Be on the lookout for it, as well as the Gotham and the John Battaglia at Turfway. And let's not forget, Turfway has produced a couple of really good Derby contenders, notably Rich Strike and 2 Phils last year who finished second. So I think we want to pay attention to that one as well. That's it from here. Stay tuned for more content. It's a busy week. Be well. I'll talk to you soon.